Okay, is everybody on? I think so. Welcome. I'm excited to invite all of you to the Michigan Peer Conference. I am Pam Werner. I work for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and lead up the Peer Specialist and Recovery Coach Initiative. We are looking forward to a great conference this year. For those of you that were on, my computer froze up, so it's a great Zoom conference, and we're starting out with that little kind of tiny problem that hopefully none of the other keynotes will have that issue. So it's great that we're here together, but we are looking forward to being in person next year, and we will have the dates on the MiPeer website, Peer's website, so you can look at that before the end of the conference. Just some minor things, some announcements. All of the conference sessions can be accessed at the website, mipeers.org, on the agenda page, and you can just click Join Now on the button that's next to the session that you want to attend. If you're unable to access the site, a PDF conference program and list of Zoom links will be posted in the chat. So if you are having difficulties, go to the chat, because a lot of the information we will be putting on there. So all of the keynote and workshop sessions will be recorded, and they'll be available to be viewed after the conference on the Peer website. If you have any concerns, reach out to the conference support staff in the chat. There's also a Help Now button that's on the mipeers.org website. Now, following each day of the conference, we have a feedback form that's really important. So it helps us to improve the conference for next year. And if you could fill it out every day, that would be great. It's short. It should only take 5 minutes or less. And the links to the survey will also be provided at the end of the second round of workshops. Now, if you're not getting emails from us, check your spam folder and add the conference registration email address in your approved senders list. And again, if you have any issues, reach out to support@mipeers.org for help. So I am really excited to highlight Justin Volpe, who works at the National Association of State Mental Health Program Directors. And he's in Hawaii right now, and it is 3 a.m. And I'm impressed at how wide awake he is, but it is a hard time change. So it's too bad we all couldn't go to Hawaii and be with you and have the conference there. So Justin is an international consultant, an advocate, and a peer specialist based out of Miami, Florida. He's presented and trained in mental health facilities and other organizations on trauma-informed practices, and used his life experience to discuss workforce issues and connecting community members and providers to better serve individuals in need. Before his role at the National Association of Mental Health Program Directors, Justin worked in a jail diversion and was the peer liaison for the 11th Judicial Criminal Mental Health Project for 14 years. He's worked as a certified recovery peer specialist in Florida since 2008 and has extensive work experience in the community. He supervised and coordinated thousands of engagements with participants with serious mental illness and co-occurring issues in the criminal justice system. He's assisted in training over 2,500 Miami-Dade law enforcement officers in the crisis intervention team training. And his passion for this work is based on bringing systems together locally and nationally while reducing stigma and advocating for the persons served. He's the recent recipient of the 2021 Fred Freeze Award from the CIT International and has many other awards and achievements, including multiple articles and films. He has been in a film that was on PBS in 2020, and it's called The Definition of Insanity. And with his experience with the Jail Diversion Program and the Ken Burns documentary, Hiding in Plain Sight. So Justin is in Hawaii to provide consultation to peer specialists, and he's also visited Michigan before, and some of our our jail diversion program. So welcome, Justin, and thank you for keynoting for us today.
Good morning, Pam. Thank you so much for that great introduction. And good morning, everybody. Thanks for being on so early. I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about my story and how I got here today. And I look forward to your feedback in the chat. And I love the chat coming in. I love peer conferences because we talk, okay? This is not going to be a boring morning. Let's get going. Let's see. Okay, sharing my screen. 1 second. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up. Pam, you see my screen? Okay, excellent. So let me get started. So this is kind of stuff Pam just said. I'm a peer support specialist. I just started with NASMHPD in January. But before, in the Miami-Dade County Jail Diversion Program, I was a frontline peer, so I've kind of switched what my role is primarily, and I'm not in the trenches anymore. And it's been a difficult switch because I've been used to doing the same thing for so long. In the jail diversion program, I was a RAP facilitator, CPI trainer, did the training with the officers. I'm still connected to CIT in Miami-Dade County, and I still volunteer my time. We're training more and more officers, and we've seen great success from this program of less arrests, less physical encounters, and things of that nature, and trying to change the culture here in Miami-Dade County. And as you know, CIT should be voluntary and not mandated to try to get the best results. I'm going to share these links to the films in the end, but this one Ken Burns film just came out in June. It's on PBS, and if you have access to PBS through a cable provider, you can stream it for free. It's a very, very long film, but very good, in depth on youth mental health. And it shares the stories of me and 4 coworkers from Miami, as well as like 20 other people in the country, of their struggles with mental health in their youth. Very impactful film. Bring a box of tissues if you watch it. So I'm gonna go back from the beginning. So, you know, I'm from Jersey. I have lived in Miami the last 20 years. And, you know, I grew up in a religious cult in New Jersey. My grandfather, who you see on the left, was the son of Italian immigrants. And my grandmother was an immigrant from Cyprus. He got really deep into the Jehovah's Witnesses, and he said that the world was going to end, and he didn't send his kids to school. Picture on the right is my father, my uncle. My uncle also had schizophrenia. They had nothing more than 3rd or 4th grade educations, never went to school. My grandmother suffered from Great Depression because of all this. She came to this country. She thought, you know, the streets were literally paved with gold, and what she meant was a mentally ill man that was going off to the races. She was often institutionalized for months at a time. My father said she would come home and you know, not be able to hold a cup or a glass because of the electroshock therapy. You know, this is the institutions back in the day in the 50s and the 60s. So I'm just setting the stage because this is in my genetics. This is in my background. So my brother and I grew up in this cult, and some of the first things they told us were, you know, the world was going to end, and we couldn't talk to anybody outside. It was very secretive. This is a traumatic event for me, that even though I had food on the table, you understand, I had 2 parents, there was some unspoken things and tension that just brought the house apart. And you know, I thought that's the way it was until I was 9 or 10 years old, and we left, and they sent me to public school, and they're like, you know, just forget about all that. And I'm like, well, is the world gonna end? They're like, don't mention that when you try to make friends in the new school, you know? And it was a difficult transition, but you know, I went to school, tried to get decent grades. You know, by the time I got to high school, I was doing pretty good. And then, you know, I lost my best friend my freshman year of high school. He died in a dirt bike accident, And after he passed away, you know, he was like my first real connection to the outside world from this cult. And I just started to turn to drugs and alcohol. I started to drink more, started to smoke pot, and you know, this is the late '90s, and you know, cocaine, ecstasy, and everything under the moon except for heroin, intravenous drugs, because I can't stand needles. But I slipped really far, and I went from being one of the top kids in my class to barely graduating. You know, we're a bunch of stupid kids because they put an undercover cop in our high school. He was he was like 32 years old. You know, we thought he was a junior. He had a hairline even farther back than mine right now. So, you know how kids are, callous and, you know, ego driven, and they suspended or expelled like all my friends, and I skated out from that. And, you know, I said I was going to stay clean, and, you know, staying clean to me was just drinking and smoking pot. I graduated high school, and you know, I was living in I left the house as soon as I got out of school, and I was living with a bunch of my friends, and my brother, who was 10 years older than me, was also part of this for a little longer than me actually. And he came up from Florida and saw me partying in Jersey on my 19th birthday. He said, man, he said, you got to get out of here. You know, you can't be in here with all these people. They're drinking, they're using. This is why I left Jersey. He goes, why don't you come to Miami with me and get clean? You know, this is some of my house. This is my brother in the middle. This is my dad on the right. Played some basketball. I graduated, and it was none of this, you know? And I moved to Miami Beach. Well, let me tell you something. You do not move to Miami Beach to get clean. And that is not clinical advice I'm giving right now. It's just lived experience advice. This is what we're about, right? And you know, I went from this mentality to a very fast-paced place city, and I got caught up really quick. And I moved there in 2003 when I was 19 years old, and you know, it just moved fast, and it was unmanageable. This is my Jersey Shore picture for all you guys that remember that show. Thought I knew everything, right? I worked dozens of jobs, moved a bunch of times. It was like one job to the next, an apartment to the next, and relationship to the next. And it was just because I never addressed that issue from youth, because I never got help for it, I was masking how I felt. And the drugs and alcohol helped mask that, right? It was like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. But because I didn't address it, it continued, and you know, it was spiraling out of control. So I worked at this place, Volpe Liquors, has my same last name as me, not a very common name in Miami. I thought we were family, but I guess not. He fired me 3 weeks later. I was a security guard. This is just a few things I did besides washing a lot of dishes on Miami Beach. You know, 20 years old, mentally ill, on drugs. I had every qualification to be a security guard. I worked a midnight shift, and I saw a lot of insane behavior and activities, and it was a wild place, and it still is. I saw somebody commit suicide, the second end of a double. This woman came in. She was intoxicated at 3, 4 in the morning, cursing and screaming. And her boyfriend came down, said, you know, you got to help this girl. I said, I just work at the front desk. I'm so sorry, you know. And that next day, the same woman went head over heels, you know, landed on her feet, and she hit the pavement so hard that her heels had splattered. And I ran down there, I called the paramedics, and, you know, I always felt not a responsibility, but like if I was more in tune or insightful or not, you know, in my own stuff or addiction, maybe I would have caught something like that. But that was, you know, tough to deal with. And, you know, when I talk to law enforcement, they see this stuff maybe every week, every month, you know, and that vicarious trauma, you know, sticks with you. So I didn't stay at that job, and I left, and I worked at a bar. I don't know if any of you guys have been to Miami Beach, but this is a very happening place with cheap alcoholic drinks, and I was 21, 22 years old. I worked there for 10 months and I made $40,000, and $40,000 is not a lot today, but it was 17 years ago. And for a 21-year-old kid, I was just blowing everything, going out to eat, drinking, going to clubs. I don't think I cooked a meal in like months. Just I was having the money to fuel my addiction, and the unmanageability just continued. I ended up getting fired for drinking on the job. I battled my demons throughout all this process, and I was able to maintain as much as I could, but I was holding on. And as I was holding on, with the addictions and stuff like that, my mental health was brewing in the background. But after I got fired, I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to end up washing dishes again. I had dropped out of Miami-Dade College. I had an apartment. I had a woman living with me. And I looked at it as my first, anxiety attack and onset of like, what am I going to do? And I didn't leave the apartment for weeks. And they had to come over and pick me up, people I was associated with, and got another job, restaurant. Little John was a part owner. It was a happening place on the weekends, but during the week, there was a lot of dead time, right? So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're busy with throwing parties. Monday through Wednesday, Thursday, we're in the alley just drinking and using. And it was typical. And, at this time, right before, what I'm about to tell you, I was completely happy with my life. I made $1,100 a month. I was able to pay my rent of $500 some dollars, pay my bills, and have a couple $100 to drink and use. And I thought, if this is all it'll ever be, I'm happy with this. But as you know, with addiction and mental illness, the unmanageability continues, and you can't just stay at one point. And my executive chef walked in, and I didn't know he had lost custody of his child that day. And he said, do you want to get high? So I said, sure. And we go into this back office. I don't know if you can see this door here. There's some little shady office, and he pulls out a huge, pipe, like a glass pipe, and he sticks this big rock in there, and he starts lighting her up with a little blowtorch that we use for the creme brulee to caramelize the sugar. And I was, so out of it, I didn't even ask him what it was, and I hit this thick white smoke, and little did I know it was crystal meth. And even though we never verbalized what it was, when that stuff hit my brain, I needed more immediately. I didn't know what it was, but I chased that high for months, and I could never get that feeling again that from the first time. And from that on, I completely decompensated. You can't see me stand up, but I'm 6'1", 190 some pounds. And I went down to 130, 140 pounds. I stopped showering. I started walking in the alleys of Miami Beach because I was so paranoid. I thought people were following me, people out to kill me. This meth, just completely triggered the onset of my mental illness, combined with all the other risky behavior I was doing before that. But this just put me over the edge. And, I got obsessed with law enforcement because I'm purchasing drugs off people I don't know, think people are out to kill me, so I'm walking around like this, like completely deranged for months. I was standing in line at Walgreens to buy a pack of cigarettes, and this man was in front of me, and he turned around, and I grabbed him by his shoulder, by his shirt, and I lifted him off the ground, and I said, you're a prophet. You can help save my father's life. And, that might sound like completely gibberish to somebody on the street or somebody not listening, but that was the trauma that was coming out that I never coped with as a kid. I was reliving that experience because my world was ending, and I thought it was related to the teachings that were taught to me. And this poor man, he said, I'm just trying to buy milk and eggs to feed my family. And I said, man, I'm so sorry. My intention wasn't to hurt him. My intention wasn't to rob him, but that's just how strung out I was. And it was a tough time. It was a tough time that summer. And I was paranoid that people were going through my trash. I would burn my trash. I mean, the blinking shifts. I was just completely symptomatic. So I called my brother who was in LA, and I told him all this. I said, man, people are trying to kill me. People are trying to get to me. He said, man, stay right there. And we had a family intervention. They were like, you need to go to rehab, right? So I went outpatient to a rehab begrudgingly. I did not want to go. I would not go inpatient. I wouldn't give up my job. I wouldn't give up my apartment because I said, how much of an addict am I if I'm paying my rent and able to maintain and working, And let me tell you, I wasn't the most productive worker, but I was holding a job, right? I get to the rehab, I stop using, and the symptoms come back. And we know that's a good sign of a serious mental health issue. It's when no drugs or alcohol are present and you feel like that again. And I flew to New Jersey on a paranoid delusion and ended up being hospitalized in New Jersey for 3 weeks. I didn't think I was ever going to leave that place. 3 weeks is a long time to be institutionalized, especially for the first time. And they're giving me medication, they're giving me medication, and it's just like, I felt the same. So I just lied to get out of there. They said that when I was in there, they were like, he's not getting any better. We're gonna have to send him to Ancora. Ancora, which I know you guys aren't from where I'm from, it was a state mental health hospital built in the 1800s in New Jersey, one of these old institutions where my grandmother got electroshock therapy, where my uncle with schizophrenia was locked up for being criminally insane, where people we heard about in Halloween got chopped up in Jason masks. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going there. So I just lied to the doctor. I said, man, I feel great. I feel good. And they discharged me. I got back to Miami. This is the park. This is a park I used to play basketball at. And, this is really where my therapy happened. And I got back to, they told me I have to take this medication the rest of my life. And I can never use again. And I just brushed them off. So I took the meds. I got my job back. And I felt good. I felt really good. And I said, I'm going to save these meds for when I feel worse again. And like when people get antibiotics and they stop using them after 3 days of a week's prescription, what happens? You can get sick again. And that's exactly what happened to me. I lost it. I got delusional again. I started using. During this time, I had a lot of interaction with law enforcement. And I'll share 2 stories with you that I share with the law enforcement during CIT. Is one was I was walking clean, but out of it, to buy a pack of cigarettes, and I was pinned by an undercover cop, a taxi, and they accused me of buying drugs somewhere where I was not. And they were pressuring me outside of my apartment, and he let me go, but the cop car stood outside for a while. And I was so paranoid that I thought that he was going to come busting down the door. So I had sharpened a knife and put it to my face and rocked by the door, because if he was going to come and arrest me and say something I didn't do, I was going to say he cut me. Does that make sense? Is that rational? No. But the thing is that, if he would have been well trained and spotted the serious mental illness, I could have been hospitalized at that time instead of a worse situation that could have happened. And then a good story of law enforcement is at this park. I would not sleep for days, and that guy, just off-duty guy, came to play basketball with me, and he was planting seeds 15, 16 years ago that I did not receive at that time. But he was looking out my best interest and trying to tell me and give me advice. And I appreciate that. And I think that this is how we need to heal as a community. We need to break down these barriers and reach out to each other. But I didn't hear the message. I ended up in Dade County Jail 15 years ago, April 2007. I picked up a felony, and they stuck me on the 9th floor, which is the psychiatric floor. And it was a closed ward now. It doesn't exist anymore, because of reports of abuse and people dying. on that floor for treatment. They used to put the worst correction officers there to deal with the mentally ill as punishment, because if you were a problematic officer, you would have to, deal with the crazy people. So there was people screaming around the clock. There was fights all the time. I was in there for grand theft, okay? And I'm in there with a guy that was attempted murder, almost killed his wife with a pair of scissors. And this man had been in there so long. He had, this deep crust on his feet. He couldn't even stand on his feet. He had to walk on the edge of his feet. And he had pictures of a file he said, I stabbed my wife. And I said, oh my God, what the hell am I doing here? So I had a hard time believing. I was so paranoid and delusional. I had a hard time believing I was still in this country by the treatment, by how things were. I was like, I just, I would play this game like, am I hearing voices, or is somebody really like dying right now? I was like, I knew I wasn't well, but I knew that things were not great around me either, and it was a scary time, and I did fear for my life because there was a lot of abuse and people so this man got beat so bad next to me. The correction officer beat him for 20 minutes, and he just laid there on the concrete, and I just heard them dragging him off. Whether he was unconscious or what, I don't know. But what I didn't know is that my family was, during this whole time, was in contact with the program that I worked 14 years with, the Jail Diversion Program, that got people out of jail with serious mental health and co-occurring issues. And I was a prime candidate. I had a diagnosis. I was taking medication in jail, whether it worked or not. And they got me out and they put me in the community. And what do you think I did? I relapsed right away. I got out. I went to the restaurant. I had one last paycheck that they owed me a lot of money. And I met this girl in rehab, and we just ran through it. This outpatient place. I was staying in a recovery home. I left the recovery home. I was in a Section 8 house, the mother of 6 kids. The same woman is locked up in a forensic hospital right now for second-degree murder. And she left one day after how many days we went through the money, and she never came back. And I'm in this apartment, and I'm in that same condition. I'm skinny. I'm unmedicated. I'm hungry. Same clothes, dirty clothes. It's like history repeats itself if you do the same thing. And one of her boyfriends came in looking for her and said, you got to get out of here. So I start walking, and where this area was like 12 miles from my recovery house. And I start walking, and I go by the train station 6, 7 in the morning. It's like right around this time. I'm talking like 15 years ago to the day, like late July, early August 2007, right? And that's recovery, because 15 years ago I was walking in the streets, and now I'm in fucking Hawaii. Sorry for my language, but I'm serious. Recovery is real. And I'm walking, and I'm going by the train station, and people are holding their nose, going like this. I'm walking by where the old metro station, Dade station, the county cop station, the cops are going by real slow. And I just cover my face and just say, that's the only time I prayed was like these foxhole prayers. I'm like, please God, keep going. And I don't know how, but it took me hours, and it was hot as hell. What I say about late July, early August in Miami too, it's very, very hot and very humid. And I passed out on the bed, and the phone rang, and the guy said, you need to get to the program. And I was like, I'm not feeling well today. He's like, nobody feels well at the program. Get your butt to the program. And I went back to treatment, and that was the last time I used drugs. I still struggle with alcohol for some time after that. And but the medication worked better, a lot better, when I'm not using drugs, when I took it. I graduated the treatment program. I closed out my court case, and I was leaving the courthouse that day, and they said, why don't you come talk to us? And I said, I'm done, right? Like, court's over. And they said, we think you could work here. And I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, how would you like to work with severely mentally ill people? And I'm like, no, thank you. Right. I'm like, in the back of my head, like, I'm ready to go get high again. And they said, no, you could be a county employee. And I go, lady, I'm paranoid. I'm delusional. She goes, you'll fit right in. Right. So I went from having an open felony in April 2007 to becoming a county employee in January 2008. And that the position turned my life around because I was not in it. I was no education on a peer. I was had no training. The only experience I had was the experience I just shared with you. And they said, you know, you can do peer work, but it kept me clean walking in the courthouse every day around cops, around correction officers, because I'm so paranoid. I wasn't going to pick up. I wasn't going to use just to go to work, you know, and I learned so much in the community, and I worked on the streets of Miami-Dade County for a long time on the bus, walking, and you know, learning the ins and outs of community health centers and linking people to treatment and getting clothes and, you know, all the stuff we do, all the great stuff the peers do. But I was doing it on the fly, and you know, my boss had a philosophy of, you know, put you out there to sink or swim, and that works. But you know, we do need more training and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot more training and a lot more insight now, especially on forensic roles. You know, so I got an apartment. Things started to get better slowly but surely. I met what would be my soon wife in June of 2008. We met on the beach. We got married. A year and a half later, that's Judge Stephen Leifman. He's the founder of the Jail Diversion Program, county court judge in Miami, Florida. And, you know, he signed our papers. We had a small ceremony out on the beach. And, you know, she's still here. She's upstairs, so we're still married. You know, I still had a lot of work to do. I was still drinking. I was still having my issues. Just because I'm, you know, not in jail or not in crisis doesn't mean everything was, you know, a fairy tale from here on out. And I think people need to realize that about recovery is that, you know, it takes time. It takes time. And even after a lot of time, we still have our days, and we're still allowed to have our days. You know, so I went to this place to get trauma therapy. It really helped change my life. I learned about forgiveness, you know, and you know, it was, I had to forgive myself and my family, and let go a lot of resentments and pain. And I think that you know, this is an ongoing thing. This is like, you know, you don't just like let something go and it just goes. But you know, I was on my hands and knees we were in one of our old apartments, and I hadn't prayed in a long time, and I was apologizing to God for the things I did and the life I was leading. And I couldn't finish that prayer. And in the middle of that prayer, she walked in and said, "I think I'm pregnant." And as one door of my life was closing, another door opened. And you know, I had my first son, Julian. He is 11 years old now. And you know, this kid really changed my life. And you know, I know it wasn't just about me after that, you know, and tried to make good choices, and you know, to have a stable home for him, because you know, I wanted to raise a kid and you know, not go through some of the insanity that her and I went through as children, and you know, just have a stable home. And yeah, it's not easy. You know, people have their differences, but we work on it, and we're doing it. You know, we're doing it. This picture was at another beach in St. Martin 3-4 years ago. This kid is awesome. We'd love to meet him. Next month, like, no, this month, it's August 18th, I will celebrate 10 years without a drink. I went back to AA, and you know, that's what works for me. I'm not promoting it, but the not drinking really helped the medication work a lot better. It really helped my mood, my mentality. And you know, like I said, it didn't happen overnight. And up until a couple of years ago, I was still taking the bus around. We didn't even have 2 cars. So, you know, last year in 21, we actually just bought our 2nd car. So I was saying this in a meeting the other day, is that, you know, I used to take the bus to meetings and take the bus all over the place, and they'd say, you know, keep coming back. And I was like, this thing doesn't work, but eventually it did. We got a county lease car in 2016. This is with the Jail Diversion Program. The commissioner gave us a car. She found out I was taking the bus all around and working on the streets. And she's like, you got to give this guy a car. So they leased the county a car for $1 a year. And I had air conditioning, and I was a hybrid, and I was picking guys up, and we were doing all sorts of stuff. So I like quadrupled my workload. And in one day, if I had to get across town, I'd see a couple guys. Now I could get everywhere. So this really, really helped the program a lot. Transportation, moving people, picking them up, picking up their medication, everything that was involved with getting people. And we would have taxis and Ubers and stuff, but to have our own car was a big, big improvement. There's some articles I was involved in 2015. This one New York Times article, jails have become a warehouse for the poor, ill, and addicted. And, I'm preaching to the choir, I think, with this crowd, especially in Michigan, that, there's an overrepresentation of people with serious mental illness in prisons and jails. There's an overrepresentation of people of color, especially with serious mental illness, incarcerated. And I don't know if you can read this, but 3 out of 4 people in jail or prison right now are for nonviolent property offenses. So that means either serious mental health or substance use issues are causing all of that. And there's an overrepresentation of women. There's a higher percentage of women with serious mental health issues incarcerated than men. This is why we do this work. And I didn't know what I was a part of when I was in the system. I didn't know half of it when I was in doing the work, because I was so siloed, like we all get siloed. And it's great to travel and to see other communities and to know that there's so many people doing this and putting in their all and trying to change the communities for the better. It's really impactful, and I just say keep going. I ended up on C-SPAN later that year. I know you guys are up at 3 in the morning like me right now watching C-SPAN. It's nothing better to do. I went to the White House in June. 15 years ago, I was in jail. Now I went to the White House where I was invited by Dr. Jill Biden with the movie Hiding in Plain Sight, and they did a preview of the movie, which is a Ken Burns documentary, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I'm not big on politics or anything like that, but to have the honor of being invited to the White House from some of the places I've been was a huge thing. And I went to the Supreme Court a few years ago to watch Judge Leifman get an award. So, I mean, it's amazing what recovery can do. I think this guy's from Michigan. I don't know if anybody's on here, but this guy looks familiar. He's a great guy, and he presented me with the award 21 in Phoenix, Arizona. This was a big award for me because it's impactful, the work, I think, with the police, and I think there needs to be more conversation around there, and more collaboration and more peers and people with lived experience involved in the work, not only training, but doing the outreach. This is some work in the community I used to do. This is a yoga class at a homeless shelter. We would do yoga, basketball, go to the park, to let people know that it's not just all meetings and medication and appointments, but it's about living it and showing that example and doing that work, is saying you can have fun and you can live a good life and there's other options. For me, I still take my medication and supplements 15 years later. Sometimes I don't like it, but you know what? It's got me where I am today. And, this is what works for me. I was able to train one of the arresting officers in CIT 7 or 8 years ago in the class. And he just looked at me and he said, like he recognized me. And he's like, man, I didn't even know you were still alive. And I said, yeah, you should have took the CIT training 10 years ago. Maybe you wouldn't have arrested me. Maybe I would have got some help. But I did get help. So I thought that was impactful to have this picture with this guy. I want to say a special thank you for my family. This is my newest. The little one is Luca. The big one's Julian. I really thank you. And I'm so sorry we're ending a little early, but maybe we can open up some dialogue and have some conversation, because It is very early here. It is 3:43 in the morning. I'm here in Hawaii to work with the forensic peers, and to do some training with providers and to really do some street outreach next week. And you know, I've been working on this trip for over a year, and they were finally able to get us out here. Um, and so I love this work, and I love the work I do for NASMHPD now. So for NASMHPD, I'm working with the states, so I'm not doing direct work, but I'm working with states and bringing that lived experience voice of all that community work and experience I've had, and not all of it good, right? I've made thousands of mistakes, and I think that I think people need to know that, so that when they're developing programs and doing things, they know what works and what doesn't work, and we got to share that experience. I hate when people say, like, everything's perfect, our program's great, we have peers, we have this. Like, let's take inventory, let's see what it's really like, and when we start having these honest conversations, it's when change can happen. If you take out your phone and QR and open your camera, you will get, I'm going to share 2 links with you right now. The first, you can stream this for free. This was a documentary in 2020 on the Jail Diversion program. We were in the Miami Film Festival. I'll give you guys a couple minutes, and maybe we could share this. I'm sure I could share this link with you guys. But it goes to a website, and you could watch trailers, and you could watch the film for free. It's about an hour. It's a cool film. It follows our program and a couple participants in the program around in the community, and shows what it's like to go through a court case in the jail diversion program, more or less. And it talks from different perspectives, from the police, from the state attorney, from the public defenders, from our program, our team, the peers. So it's cool. And then this was the big film that came out. It's a two-part film, hiding in plain sight, on youth mental illness. And this was a good film to be part of. It was very impactful. If you scan that, it's going to take you to like a PBS website, and you might have to log in. If you have a cable provider, I think you could log in and try to stream it for free. If not, there'll be plenty of trailers and stuff. You guys could check it out. But sometimes they re-air this stuff too, so you could just check it out. Hiding in Plain Sight, Ken Burns. And this is my contact. You guys are welcome to contact me anytime. This is my email, my work cell, some stories. And I look forward to opening up the chat, maybe talking to you guys a little bit. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop my share for a minute, if that's okay. And we're back. Oh, we have a hand up. Jeremy? Good morning. Jeremy, would you? Oh, hi.
Hi, Justin. Wonderful story, so inspiring. I just have a question, and I wanted to ask, at 6'1", Justin, were you ever able to dunk the basketball?
You're a funny guy, and I think you're really funny.
I'm sorry.
That is a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. And for a short period of time, when I was 18 or 19, I could dunk. And after that, it was the tennis ball. And after that, it was the rim. And then after that, it was the net. It kept going down.
That's great.
I'm almost 40 now, and I want to dunk again. You must be a basketball player to ask that question.
Tennis, actually.
Okay. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Ryan, go ahead. We got a few minutes. Good morning.
Good morning. Am I unmuted?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I work in rural Michigan, and my question is like, how do you, where most cops view mental health and SUD as a criminal issue, not a mental health issue, how did you, I guess, start the dialogue with them and let them know that?
That's a great question, and it wasn't just me. It took collaboration from all angles. So like in your county, you would need the buy-in from the sheriff. right? You would need community partners like the mental health or substance abuse facilities to partner in with the sheriff and to have some of these broader conversations to allow people with lived experience to talk to the police. And do they do CIT training in those rural counties?
I'm not sure.
That's a question to ask. And then, you know, it takes time to not only start those conversations, but to see changes. You know, I can just share with you the CIT programs evolved over 20 years in Miami, and the mentality is shifting. But it, you know, when we started, and this is before my time, there were still cops from the 80s and early 90s when things were really bad here in Miami. So they weren't buying in, you know. But when they get the buy-in from the top, when the top dog, the sheriff, talks about it, and you make that conversation, then it trickles down. And that's the best advice I could give you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I think Doug, Ryan, put his email. Maybe you can connect with him. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
I just wanted to say how much I related to and appreciated the fact that, you know, not drinking helped your recovery so much. One of the big things I emphasize in my story is that, you know, if I was using the meds didn't work right and vice versa, but I usually include that in my story to my clients. But the thing I run into is that they had to be very ready and willing to make that change in terms of giving up their substance use, focusing on their recovery and getting properly medicated, or just quitting the substance use alone if they're not medicated. So I really appreciated that in your story. I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. And we can't, right? We can't make somebody, they have to figure out their own paths. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of being a peer, is doing that and just letting people, you know, go their own path. And I think I can speak for myself, is that I want to do it for them sometimes. And I think, you know, we need to detach and let people figure out their own path and be there for when they fall and be there to support them. Marshall, I am going to share these links. Let me share my screen again. Let me see if that works. Let me give you the link. This is the last link. Is this the one you were talking about, Marshall? Hiding in plain sight. Scan that QRU code, the little dinosaur. Let me know when you got it. Yes, you got it. We will get the links out. Okay, we're gonna get the links out. We'll continue. I think we can have one or two quick more comments, and then we're gonna take a 5-minute break before the next session. How does that sound? Anybody else, or are we gonna break now? Well, I want to thank you guys. Oh, Kelly, good morning.
Hi, my name's Kelly Boniface. I'm from Trenton, Michigan. Your story was very good.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's nice to talk to you this morning.
You should come to Michigan and help out the mental illness there.
I'd love to. I'd love to be back. I was in Detroit about 4 years ago, and I met with some great programs and some great people, but maybe Pam will invite me back one day and we'll go there. Thank you so much. Lily has a question in the chat, and I'm sorry if I've missed a lot of people's comments in the chat. I was talking. Lily, go ahead. No, I can't hear you, Lily. Oh, go ahead. You're on screen. Now just unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Good morning, you guys. So I have a question, Justin. So the whole Jehovah's Witness thing that you were talking about is something that I still struggle with till this day. So I know how traumatic that can be when we're growing up. and they're teaching us those things. I'm wondering, is your family still involved with that religion, or?
That's a great question. And even though they're not, well, first of all, my mom is, not with my father, but she is not, but my dad still has that mentality and still thinks a lot of the same things, even though he's not directly involved, which is still very traumatic to have that presence. If you know what I mean, to have those same thoughts, and he can't let that go. He's 80 years old, so that's the way he was raised and that's the way he thinks. But there, we could talk offline, because I'm not going to knock anybody's religion. If that works for you, that works for you.
Yeah.
It's just my experience, So
All right.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you. Kiera, go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. So I am peer coordinator at Macomb County, and the part that stuck out to me the most was the lack of care that you received when you were in the mental hospital. And so as a peer coordinator and previously a peer, I spend a lot of time with individuals who are obviously in and out of the hospital. And it's the same thing, they don't get treated right. We hear the worst rumors about, people that are hospitalized and the lack of care that they're receiving. And I just want to know if you have any ideas on how we could come together as peers. I'm sure all of our stories sound the same, and we need to reach a higher level so that maybe we could, one, be more involved in these hospitals, helping people, and two, change the care that they're receiving.
Wow, you're right. I mean, you're so in the situation, like what's needed, and right, that's needed everywhere. And I think a part of this, besides the peers, is that connecting to what once they're out. People would say, with my program, the Jail Diversion, we got them out of jail. To what? To an institutionalized another setting. And I think there needs to be, and you guys in Michigan have a lot of peer centers and stuff like that, and peer run organizations. I think that we really need to be in the conversation of making those connections, like you said, on the inside, and making sure they're linked locally somewhere where they can get help, or at least know they can get help. And I think, again, if that's a conversation with a hospital administrator, I mean, and it's the same what I said to the question before with the sheriff. When people get the buy-in from the top and they say it's okay, how do you make a connection in a hospital that you're not associated with somebody is another story with HIPAA and whatnot. But there has to be something. You peers should run a group in the psychiatric hospital and then give out information or something like that if they're not going to meet with individuals. And that's just an idea. But I love where your question's coming from, because it's coming from a good place, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. There's a Q&A. Oh, Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say your story was very powerful, and I just want to say keep your head up and stay strong.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. There's a question from Cynthia Robinson. Wait 1 second. It says, boundaries are so important being a peer. What are some key boundaries you can share? I don't know if everybody can see that. And to answer that, is Michigan Peer Support is going to answer this question live. Okay. I don't know what's happening with the chat. Patty, I got you real quick. To Cynthia, boundaries, I love shutting my phone off when it's time to go home. These are things I have not done. I love, explaining your role and how far you can go and what you can and can't do, to give people clear expectations. I think that we can get caught because we've been through sharing the stories as well. Okay, you have a comment as well. We'll get to you right after Patty, Cynthia, and then maybe you could share. Patty, go ahead.
I'll have just a quick question. What is your email again? Because it was so fast, I couldn't write.
I'll put it in the chat, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Cynthia, go ahead.
Yes, so good morning, everyone. My name is Cynthia Robinson. I work for the Arbor Circle Agency here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And one of the things that I've been working on as far as like the mental illness in the jails and things like that. And sorry, I have a new puppy, so if you hear him, please try to not let that bother you. Please stop, Neil.
It's fine. I love dogs. Go ahead.
But anyways, on our state level, with our prison system, right now they give people when they leave, when they're released from prison, they give them medications, they give them food stamps, they give them ID cards, they get them Section 8 vouchers. They do all of this on the state level. And I'm trying to get it to where we can do this on the local level, because so many are leaving out, like you said, 3 out of 4 have some type of mental illness. And if they can do this on a state level, then why can't they do this on a local level? Because this would keep them from going to a state level, you know, and I don't, it's our legislation, it's our policies and procedures. And someone said, well, how can I help? Michigan League of Public Policy is one place that you could go to get some answers on how to make change, learn about policy, why things are the way they are, and how you can help to make change.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're so right. And I wish the resources, you know, we shared them with everybody. All right, I think we're at 10 o'clock. CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Team Training. Stephanie, you want to take us out? Last comment? Go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, no, I'm actually working on my wife's computer. My name is Terrence Hall. I work with justice-involved vets with co-occurring addictions and war trauma. And I want to just say that your comment on the hereditariness of how the families play a role in our problems. And I just want to, your story has helped me personally, because my son, my youngest son, is 26. And just last week, he was picked up with meth and he's diagnosed schizophrenic. And I've really gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, you know, it's your journey. There's nothing I can do. And pretty much was washing my hands of him. And seeing that your story and where you've come from, it actually has given me a renewed hope for my own son. So I want to thank you on that level, and thank you for taking the time and come talk to us. And while we all are trying to help people, we still need help. And I think you also pointed that out, and that's key. And I want to thank you for helping me.
Thank you so much for that comment. And that is an amazing way to close this. I really hope your son gets the help he needs, and I hope that he can weather the storm and you guys work it out, and that he can have a meaningful life too. And thank you for being a part of his life. And we all need supporters. We all need people, because we can't do it alone. And sometimes the people closest to us are hurt the most. Well, they are. The people we love are affected the most, and the people in the situation have no regard of how we're affecting people, or the damage that's being done, and it hurts the people that care more than we care. So thank you for caring and being there. So thank you guys so much. And there's some beautiful comments here. Kira, thank you guys. I'm gonna log off now, or maybe just listen for a minute. So Pam, go ahead, back to you. Thank you guys.